Today, we're going to be breaking down the January 2025 luxury market report. So we're actually going to be doing this as a combination of luxury and waterfront. So luxury, we are defining as $1 million or more price point, and waterfront is obviously properties that are along the water. And it's one of the most interesting months that we've seen in a while. In general, prices are up, but sales are down. Homes are sitting a little bit longer, yet the highest end properties are still commanding massive price tags. So what does that mean for you as a buyer or a seller? Stay tuned, because we're covering the key trends, top sales, and what to expect moving forward. So let's do a brief market overview, and let's start with the numbers. Okay, you're going to see me say Greater Annapolis a bunch throughout this. I'm referring to Anne Arundel County as a whole. The average sales price for a luxury home in Greater Annapolis rose in January. That's up from December and significantly higher than this time last year. However, the total number of transactions has declined, meaning there are fewer homes that changed hands. So why the slowdown? Buyers are being a little bit more selective, and the homes that are selling, they're the best of the best. So we're talking waterfront estates, turnkey properties, or homes that have ample space along with turnkey finishes that you would see in a new build or something that's been massively renovated, and the homes are priced strategically to kind of meet that buyer demand. So let's talk about some key data points here. The median price is $1.93 million, and that probably feels a little bit more attainable for some of our people in the luxury segment. And what that means is that you just have a couple of high-end properties that we're going to get to in a little bit, because we're going to break down the top 5 sales in the market during this time. That means that a couple of top-end sales that skewed those numbers. So we talked about it a little bit. The number of transactions dropped from last month in December. So typically we're going to see a little bit of a rush to get into a property prior to Christmas every year. And then there's a really kind of a lull during that holiday season because people are distracted. The weather starts to turn, it's a little bit colder. There's a lot of personal activities going on. It's not necessarily a peak home sales month. The average days on market was up significantly in January 2025 compared to December and compared to years prior. And that's primarily going to be because of time of year. So average days on market is up to 94 days, but that's a little skewed. Okay, because we had a couple of properties settled that had been on the market for a very long time. One of them in particular that was on the market for years. So if we take that out, the average days on market is significantly lower. So in general, buyers are taking their time. They're evaluating properties a little bit more critically than they were a couple years ago, really waiting for that right fit. But when the right home hits, it's still moving very quickly. So now let's talk about some of the top sales in January 2025. Even with the fewer transactions, some properties still commanded record-breaking numbers. So let's start with the first one. So we have a waterfront estate in Wimbledon Farms with extensive acreage and really high-end finishes. That closed at $7.4 million. It's a big deal. The Downs had a really expansive riverfront property on the Severn River with a private dock, beautiful finishes, settled at $4.63. We have Tebston on the Magathie. So this is a kind of an interesting one, because this one had been on the market for a couple of years and had been under contract. This was actually something that was being sold as an investment portfolio, and it's a neighborhood in Pasadena that has several different properties on it that are rental properties. I've toured it a few times. I've never quite seen anything like it. They've been under contract for months now, but they finally settled at $4.4 million, making it one of the more interesting sales that happened in January. So our fourth highest sale was in St. Margaret's. This is a suburb of Annapolis that's just north of the Naval Academy, and it's a prime location near the water with just exceptional craftsmanship. That one traded at $3.58 million. And then let's go back to the Downs for a minute here and talk about this one that's settled at $3.32 million. Very privacy. It's really one of Annapolis's most sought after enclaves. So exquisite property, just one of my favorite looking homes that we've seen. What do these sales tell us? Tells us that waterfront homes and estate style properties are still in demand, but only the most well-positioned homes are moving. If you're selling a high-end home, it's pretty clear that presentation, pricing, and location are everything. All right, so now let's look at communities that perform the best and which ones saw a little bit slower movement. So one of our faster selling luxury communities, we'll just dub that anything that sells in under 45 days. South River Landing. South River Landing is a premier neighborhood in Edgewater. It's a lot of brick colonials. It's very interesting. It's a gated community. It's got tennis courts, marina, pool, and a waterfront promenade that you can walk on if you're in the community. It's a unique community because all of the houses are single families. Many of them are waterfront and have sweeping views of the South River, but you have condo ownership there. So typically when you hear condo, you're thinking, oh, it must be an apartment. No, it does not have to be. In this instance, we have a bunch of single families that are owned in condo ownership. So what does that mean? It means it's a little bit more restrictive than an HOA. And it also means that the condo is going to take care of all of the grounds and a bevy of other options within the community. So if you're ever fortunate enough to drive through, maybe to an open house or something like that, you're going to see exquisite grounds everywhere, no matter what the time of year is. It's not a designated 55 and up community, but most of the residents are that. And it's just a beautiful community, very well maintained, spacious lots for the waterfront properties, sweeping views of the South River. It's just a really cool community. So South River Landing is on the top of our list right now for fast selling luxury communities. And then we just highlighted two of the top 5 sales in January, the Downs on the Severn. So if you're looking at this on a map, you're going to see Sherwood Forest to the north of it, and you're going to see Epping Forest to the south. This one is sandwiched right in between, and what makes the Downs unique is a couple of things. So almost every lot in there is north of an acre, and the waterfronts are really interesting because you get a lot of them that sit super elevated. And so you're not really concerned about any kind of flood risk or anything like that, which is important for most of our buyers that are purchasing on the water. Another thing that you'll notice when you're touring Annapolis and the surrounding neighborhoods, a lot of our styles when it comes to homes are colonial, craftsman. A lot of them are more on the more traditional side. The Downs kind of bucks that trend. The Downs has a bevy of styles in it. So yes, it does have its colonial properties. It's got some more traditional looking properties, and those are all fine, well, and dandy. But it's also got splashed in there some really cool mid-century moderns. It's also got Tudor style. It's got some contemporaries in there. It's really kind of cool to see the different variety in there. And that's what attracts a lot of buyers to it, especially if you're coming from the DMV region. There's just a lot more variety in the DMV when it comes to home styles, and particularly in Montgomery County. So if we have people transferring to Anne Arundel from those DMV suburbs, this neighborhood checks a lot of boxes because of that variety that it offers in home styles. So let's get into some of these slower moving communities. And this one is going to surprise a few people because it's traditionally not slow at all. But based on the January 2025 data, historic district in Annapolis, this is downtown Annapolis, had some limited high-end transactions compared to some previous months, and possibly due to buyers waiting for a little bit more inventory. The historic district in Annapolis is what most people think of when they think of Annapolis. So you're talking all the stuff that's around City Dock, the restaurants, the bars, all the stuff surrounding the Naval Academy. That is traditionally really popular, and it still is. But what we've seen lately is that a lot of the stuff that had come on the market towards the end of last year was not necessarily the high-end stuff. It was more of more affordable stuff, some stuff in the 6s, 7s, 8s, stuff without parking dedicated to it. And that stuff still sells very well. But, when it comes to the high-end transactions, those properties north of $1 million that have those items that we talked about, those were pretty limited. So if you're a buyer, these slower moving areas, we're already seeing, it's mid-February now, we're already seeing, historic district pick up significantly. But in areas that are slower moving, it does present excellent opportunities for buyers to come in and negotiate a deal. So if you're a seller in these communities, just reevaluate your pricing strategy, reevaluate your presentation strategy. If a property doesn't sell, it's really for one of three reasons. It's either priced above what the market is willing to pay, or it's not presented in the best light that it can be, or it is not disseminated on all the mediums that it needs to be in order to get the most eyeballs on it. It could be any one of those three or a combination of them. So what does this data mean for buyers and sellers? So let's break down depending on which side of the transaction you're on. So for buyers, with how things went in January of this year, homes sitting a little bit longer, you may be able to secure better terms, whether that means better pricing or better timing for you. Maybe you need a more extended close to get your home ready. Maybe somebody's willing to take on a home sale contingency. I don't think that would be the case. It'd be very rare right now, but that's what you're talking about when you're talking about more negotiating power, a little bit more flexibility on the buyer's side. Be ready for competition on prime properties. Okay, so a well-priced turnkey home is going to sell fast, regardless of the price point. If you're looking and you're in the market right now and you want something that is turnkey because you don't want to do a renovation, you want something in a neighborhood that, 20 other buyers want to be in, be ready to compete. Eliminate as many contingencies as you can in order to secure that property. Another idea, this is not going to be for everybody, but explore some slower moving communities. There are some hidden gems out there. And just because a community is moving slow right now, it doesn't mean that that is always going to be the case. So there are hidden gems in there if you're patient and strategic. It really just is a case-by-case thing. Now let's talk about sellers. Sellers' strategic pricing is critical. Overpricing is going to result in longer market times. You hear it all the time from agents. How do you figure out your pricing? Look at what's sold in the last 6 months. Look at what's sold in the last year. Look at your presentation. Do you need to do work to the property before you list it? For most people, the answer is yes, but you need somebody that is an unbiased third party to tell you that and not cave into you saying that your house is, incredible. It's way better than the Joneses' house and over up the street. And, refer to your professional, because your professional's job, your agent's job, is to present the property in the best light. You need to help with that, and staging is a critical part about that. I tell our buyers all the time, and everybody on our team does, take a look at new builds. Look at the properties that they're advertising as their model homes. These big builders, your NVRs, your Toll Brothers, your Koch homes, they are spending millions of dollars a year on market research. And they know, based on that research and that spend, what buyers want to see. So when you walk into a model home and you're blown away by everything in there and say, God, I could totally see myself in here. I love the flow. You're falling in love with the idea. And they've spent a lot of money to come up with that idea. And so when you're selling a resale, it's important to try and give buyers that same feel. So when they walk into that house that you're selling, they should be feeling like, oh my God, I have to be in here. This is incredible. I could totally see us here. And that is the formula for creating a bidding war. That's a formula where you can maybe ask a little more than what you would traditionally ask, but it's because you have it presented better than anything else on the market. So homes that are move-in ready, buyers are still paying a premium for those turnkey properties. Consider staging, consider a renovation prior to. And if you're just not in the market for that, then adjust your pricing strategy, adjust your presentation strategy, and do what works for you. Just expect a little bit longer market time. Okay? So unless your property is priced really aggressively, patience is going to be required for those properties that are the in-betweens. So properties that are between a 6 and let's say a 7.5, those are the ones that are going to sit if they're priced like they're a 10. And that's where buyers are going to have negotiating room. The properties that are a 1 to a 5, that are priced like they're a 1 to a 5, those are going to move quickly. The properties that are in 8 to a 10 and priced like they're an 8 to a 10 or an 8 to a 12, those are going to move quickly. And the biggest takeaway from this is that you should know, if you're a buyer, this market's finally offering a little bit more options and time to negotiate depending on where you're looking. If you're a seller, be prepared for a little bit longer runway unless your home's in perfect condition and priced appropriately. That's where you lean on your professional to figure that out. So where's the market heading next? Well, here's what we're watching for in the coming months, okay? More homes typically hit the market in March and April, which should be shifting pricing strategies along with it. The interest rates have been kind of stable over the last couple of months. They've been hovering between that 6 and 7 mark, depending on what your credit score is. Now that the Super Bowl is behind us, that's really, it's an unofficial American holiday. Now that that's behind us, there are not any more holidays for the next couple of months that are going to really distract buyers from looking. Plus, the weather's going to warm. School's second semester is in session, and it's going to start winding down come April and May. And so we're going to see this spring inventory surge. And when that happens, if you're a buyer, you need to be prepared. Now, what are the luxury buyer trends? I think demand's going to remain high, these waterfront and estate properties. There's just no getting around it. There is some interest rate sensitivity. So cash buyers are going to probably dominate that ultra luxury space. Rate fluctuations are going to be impacting that lower luxury bracket. So that 1 to 1.5, 1.6 range, those are the people that are going to be non-contingent on selling homes, and they're going to be sensitive to that rate because once they secure this new property, they are going to end up trading that old property that they're in now that's probably somewhere in the 6 to 900 range. If you're thinking about buying or selling, it's important to stay ahead of the curve and work with someone or a group that knows how to navigate a shifting market. The Greater Annapolis luxury market is evolving. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, now is the time to kind of strategize, especially as we're heading into the spring market that's going to be very busy. If you want to get ahead of it, let's have a conversation. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns on real estate stuff. Take care, guys.